Hello, this is Anne Marie with Angel Star Karma, and I am here with Louise Eddington of Cosmic Owl Astrology. I am so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks for asking.
And Louise has her own YouTube channel, Cosmic Owl Astrology, and she also has podcasts, the Weirdly Cosmic podcast. And she is an expert in astrology and tarot and numerology. And I have learned so much just listening to her, and I'm just so excited to have her join me today.
I'm like, oh, I'm not an expert on numerology. I know a bit.
Well,
Yeah,
you tie them all together so beautifully on your
thank you.
podcast and everything, and I just love listening and learning so much every time I listen.
Yeah.
So, now I am a part of your Venus Enchantment community. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I host a community that's growing all the time, and I work with Venus. It's one of my favorite planets to work with, so I named it Venus Enchantment. And I do a monthly call based on the conjunction of the moon and Venus. And it's probably more than I can go into on this one
Right.
short call. But the Venus cycle basically goes from morning star to evening star every 9.5 months.
Mhm.
And the meeting of Venus and the moon each month between the retrogrades and the direct meeting of the sun and Venus are called gates. I call them the kiss though. And the Venus cycle is really the most human cycle there is. Venus really is the higher incarnation of Earth. She's really our higher selves, what we're aiming to reach for. I've been running a Venus retrograde class since
Yeah.
2017, and I've got another one coming up because I can only do it when Venus is retrograde, of course. It's called the
And
Venus.
that'll be in December.
That's December, starts December the 14th.
Yeah.
7 weeks. That's a 7 week journey into the underworld. And it's the most amazing class. That class actually came to me in a dream. You know, I woke
Oh,
up and I was like, "You're going to do this class." And I was like, "Really?" Okay. So
oh,
I,
that's awesome.
and it's just grown and grown since. And since then, I've also become certified to work with the Venus Star Point work that Ariel Gutman created, astrologer Ariel Gutman. So I'm just deepening my work with Venus all the time. And my Venus enchantment community is based around Venus. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, and that actually leads us into the new moon that's coming up since it's in Libra, which is led by Venus
Venus
or
rule.
ruled by Venus. So,
Yeah,
do you want to talk a little bit about that?
sure. And Venus is, of course, going to be right at the end of Scorpio
Yes.
on this new moon. Well, this new moon is really powerful. I mean, I did a podcast episode, and you feel free to dive in with your thoughts too, but it's such a powerful new moon. It's at 13 degrees of Libra, and 13 is, of course, the number, people have associated with bad luck and black magic kind of thing. But it's actually the
Right.
number of the goddess because, the all things of the divine feminine have been
Cursed.
pillarized and cursed for centuries.
Exactly.
And we've got the moon and the sun conjunct, which means at the same place from our perspective at 13 degrees Libra. And Mars is also at 13 Libra, which is really interesting. And well, I'll talk about it in a minute. And there's also an almost exact aspect called a quincunx to Uranus in Venus ruled Taurus
Mhm.
at 13 degrees on this new moon. So it's just a really powerful time. Uranus is the great awakener,
Mhm.
the lord of lightning bolts, and and in Taurus, he's very much connected with our values and uh, what we value as well, like money and belongings in the physical world. And Libra, the Libra aspect of Venus, is more about justice and balance and harmony. And Mars has been on this journey through Libra, um, actually opposing where he was retrograde in his own sign last year in Aries.
Yeah.
And Mars retrogrades rarely in Aries. The last two times were in the 80s and the 40s. So it's it's about every 40 years he retrogrades in Aries. So Mars has been going through this journey of, I'm going to say, softening or um, rediscovery of the softer side of himself. And did you know that Mars, Mars gets a terrible reputation in astrology? Do you think so?
Well, I try not to look at any planet with a bad rep. I think they all have positive parts, and
Oh,
I try to be positive. So
yeah,
I'm always looking at the positive
me
side.
too, which is probably why you like my podcast and the community.
Probably.
Mars, the warrior, and if you listen to a lot of mundane astrologers talking about the astrology of events, they're always talking about war and violence and things. Well, Mars is also our will and our life force. And do you know the god Mars was actually the guardian of our agriculture? He wasn't just the god of war. So
He's a protector. He's
yes,
like
I
a
see him as a guardian, a protector. And
Mhm.
if you look at his position in just the planets, we've got the sun, which is our core. We've got Mercury, our mind. Then we've got Venus, our kind of higher self. Then the Earth with the moon going round it, and then Mars is there protecting. Only he's not the only one, because the other aspect in this new moon is Ceres,
Yes.
one of my
I was
favorite.
just listening to your
Oh, you've listened to my new video?
yeah, well, I was kind of in the middle of it when I was like, oh, I need to get ready. So,
Yeah, I've done a few presentations on series. I actually got paid to present for the Organization of Professional Astrology for their online conference. I see series as kind of the great mother that's been lying hidden really for a long time. And so she was the goddess of agriculture, amongst other things, many other things. And he is the god of, or the guardian of agriculture. And the two of them are in aspect on this new moon, too. So I said a lot there and didn't say what it all means. Very technical. To my mind, this new moon really is about us. I always think we're being given opportunities by the planets. And if we're listening, then we're learning the lessons. I think we're being given a big opportunity to kind of wake up to what we need to do to guard what feeds us and nurtures us on the earth.
mm. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the aspect that Mars is, what is the connection to Ceres? Is it are they
The trine.
the trine? Okay. Okay, good. So
So
that
it's a
is,
supportive, nice,
yes.
supportive air aspect. Series in
Mm-hmm.
Gemini, about changing perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
opening your mind. Series, the new moon is on October the 6th, and
Yes.
Ceres is actually stationing retrograde on October the 8th. So she's at a standstill.
Mm.
Pluto stations direct on the new moon as well. So
With Mercury as well, yes? Or is that
uh,
not till the 18th?
Mercury stations on the 18th.
18th. Okay. Okay.
But Pluto, we've got Ceres stationing retrograde and Pluto stationing direct, and the new moon in these Venus ruled signs. And Pluto and Ceres, if you listen to my Ceres video that's on my channel, I see Ceres and Pluto as kind of the well they were, in the Persephone story, the mother and the lover, uh,
Yeah.
and Venus as Persephone, if you like.
Hmm. Yes.
So I see this whole story about, the grief, the loss of innocence, the coming to acceptance of our shadow side. It's all about becoming
Mm.
wholesome, really, and recognizing that we have our shadow. We can't be all love and light and positive all the time. We, everything has
Much as
the
we'd
night.
like to be, there's always the dark side.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's out of balance if you try and be too light.
Hmm. Yeah. You can't have the light without the dark, and you can't have the dark without the light.
Exactly.
So now you've written two books, and I think you said that you've just finished your third, or or almost finished your third book.
I've finished writing the third. It's in editing now, so I keep
Okay.
getting edits from the editors. But yeah, I've got them here, so I will show them.
Yeah, good.
First one was modern astrology,
Uh-huh.
and that's kind of a real beginner's astrology book, and it gives a lot of exercises to help people tune into the energies and the planets, because I believe experience of the energies is the best way to learn rather than just,
Sure.
you know, a list of
All the
keywords.
knowledge. Right. Yeah.
And my second book, The Complete Guide to Astrology, is another kind of, it's a bit more in depth than this one. But
Mhm.
this one, I was actually asked to write it from a non binary perspective. My editor, she's a very out lesbian, and she was like, it's always written for straight people. So I was like, well, you picked me, an old straight woman, to write it. Well, anyway, um, in writing this, I realized that language, astrology is just a language, basically.
Yes.
We're interpreting the stars, we give the planets meaning, really, by the language we use. And we actually kind of have some non binary language in ancient astrology called the astrology of sect that denotes planets as night or day. And it kind of makes sense to me because you can see night and day.
Hmm.
So rather than male and female, I just propose that we start talking about day and night instead. So,
Great.
yeah.
Nice. And what is your new book about? Are you allowed to talk about
Yeah, yeah, I can
it?
talk about it. Yeah, it's actually about you. Well, it will probably be right up your alley. It's for using astrology to understand the tarot, so to help the
Okay.
tarot practice.
Great.
Yeah,
All
because
right. And when do you think that'll come out? Is it you're
they haven't
finished
given
writing
me
it?
a date. These things are very slow.
Yeah.
It'll be in the new year sometime. Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right. So, well, bringing that up, then, what came first for you when you were studying astrology, tarot, numerology? Where did you start with your studies?
Astrology completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was always interested in the sun signs, at least, and
Hmm.
I've even still got little bits of my writing from a teenager where I wrote
Um,
lists of keywords for sun signs and the like. But it wasn't till my first Saturn return, which is pretty common, I think, for a lot of astrologers. A friend of mine had studied astrology, and she wrote out a delineation of my chart for me, and I was like, wow, this is great, I want to learn this. So it was before computers, so she helped me, gave me some books. I taught myself how to hand calculate the charts
oh my goodness.
using a table of houses and some books. It's not that hard, really, if you've got the right tools.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and for years, I just and I've still got my file full of these hand drawn charts, that I did, and anybody that would let me, I calculated their charts and gave them little readings, like my friends and my friends' kids, and it was just pure natal astrology I did for a long time, and only the main planets. But then I was in the coaching world, social media marketing and coaching,
Mhm.
and I got to know some people who like used hand analysis, and I got to know a couple of what I would call real astrologers, because I thought you had to have a degree in astrology to be an astrologer, but you don't.
Thank
And
goodness for me. So,
And anyway, it was in 2012, the year that changed a lot for a lot of people, I think. I just said, I'm going to do this as a profession. I've never lost the interest. And now I know that people actually kind of, they're not just the celebrity Jonathan Kaner type astrologers. There's a lot of real working astrologers. I'm going to do it. And
Great.
I took one-on-one lessons with a friend of mine who was an apprentice of Stephen Forrest, who's one of the great astrologers,
Yeah.
and I just launched, and I've never stopped, and I've never stopped learning. And then I'd had tarot cards since my first interest in astrology, or proper astrology as I call it. And I'd played with them, and I began to just pull cards for my clients, and the numbers just came naturally, probably through the podcast with Jen, who when we did the podcast together, because she was a numerologist. So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and they just
And
all work together. So
well, and you're somebody very, to me at least, from my exposure to astrologers, you're very unique in that you focus so much on the asteroids. You have so much knowledge on that. When did you pull that into your practice?
it probably was. Where are we now? Probably about 5 years ago. I got Demetra George's book on
Yes.
the goddess asteroids.
Yes.
And whilst, I've kind of come to some of my own conclusions since,
Mhm.
I realised the asteroids just speak to me so much. And it's probably to do with my own natal chart.
Mhm.
For example, I have asteroid Juno exactly conjunct my Mercury. I have
Okay.
asteroid Pallas Athena exactly conjunct my ruling planet Jupiter. And they're all very prominent in my chart.
Well,
So,
here I am, so you
yeah,
better pay
exactly.
attention.
And asteroids are just fascinating. Of course, there's thousands, so
Right.
I generally just use the main ones. But I don't know if you're aware, the Pandora Papers. The news has just kind of released these papers about corruption amongst the wealthy. It's
Uh-oh.
anyway. There's an asteroid called Pandora that's
Uh-huh.
conjunct Mercury retrograde at the moment, revealing secrets. You just can't make the asteroids up
Oh,
sometimes. They're just like,
no, that's fascinating. Wow. Well, and then some of these asteroids are now actually dwarf planets or reclassified as dwarf planets.
well,
Is that
Ceres was asteroid number one, and
uh-huh.
she was reclassified as a dwarf planet. I don't think any of the others have been,
Okay.
but
And there's a dwarf planet university I've found that I'm trying to remember his name.
Alan Clay, yeah,
That's the one. And I'm signed up to take his class on Haumea.
yeah,
Haumea.
tell me.
Um, and so I guess, but that's a dwarf planet. That's not an
That's
asteroid.
one of the newly discovered dwarf planets. They're kind of way out beyond the asteroid
The,
belt.
yeah, the post, what are they called? They're post,
Oh, there's different names for them.
right. Yeah. Okay. The
Trans-Neptunian
Kuiper
object.
belt, and then there's the Neptune, post Neptunian or something. I don't know. There are all these different names.
And Ceres was thought to be an asteroid because she's very close to the asteroid belt, but actually she's just
I knew that was going to happen. That's why I'm holding him. Is there's an arborist that
oh.
just decided to show up today. So I'm trying to keep him from going crazy.
Well, Ceres is just inside the asteroid belt, so she's not actually in it. And I think she was thought to be in it at first. But
Uh-huh.
to my mind, they're all astronomical terms, really. I think who cares if they work,
Yeah.
I'm in the realm of you can't make this stuff up.
No.
There's an asteroid Louise that's exactly conjunct my sun.
Wow. Oh, wow. That's fascinating. Now, on my chart, I have all of, well, the first four, the asteroids, I have them in the 10th, 11th, and 12th house. They're just, I
Right.
call it now, as like I'm closing down on my life there. That's my goddess lounge, I call it. So I'm going into the goddess lounge point of my life.
My whole chart's in my goddess lounge, just about.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
but but yeah, like I have Ceres is conjunct my ascendant too, so no wonder I'm really interested in working with her.
yeah.
Venus is conjunct my midheaven at the top of my chart, so right up
Oh,
there, she's my most elevated planet. So no
yeah.
wonder,
No wonder you're teaching these classes, and she
and no
probably gave you the classes, the retrograde class herself.
I think she did. And it's
Yeah.
conjunct Neptune. So, of course, I call it
Oh,
Venus
yeah.
enchantment because Venus and Neptune is like, yeah, you can't
Yeah.
make these things up, really, can you?
No.
No, no.
Great. Um, I guess, yeah. So back to the new moon a little bit. So
Mm.
the key points on the new moon in Libra would be like relationships, how it's going to impact relationships, do you think? And
Well, yeah, I see Libra as way more than that. I think it's our relationships to anybody, all that is other. It's not just our intimate relationships, to be quite honest.
yeah,
It's how we relate to each other generally as people, as humans. It's the we, it's the sign.
yes.
Aries, the opposite, is the me, me, me. Libra is
Mhm.
me. And so I think it's yeah, yes, it's about sure it's about relationships, but it's about way more. It's about justice,
Diplomacy.
equanimity,
Yeah.
diplomacy, mediation, um, all that kind of just a balancing, a rebalancing. And here we have on this new moon, we've got Mercury retrograde in Libra too, and they're all going to meet up as well. Mercury, Mars,
Yes.
and the Sun are all going to meet at 16 degrees right
Yes.
after the new moon. So we've got this very strong emphasis on this rebalancing. So I think that's more what I would say it's about this new moon. It's
Mhm.
also opposing Chiron, the key to healing, I think. I think we're being asked to see what our part is in healing all the division and you know, separation that we've got in the world at the moment.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
Polarities.
There's so much of it. There's so
Yeah,
much of it.
yeah, yeah. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect always, too. Because I don't always want people in my life if they don't align, but that doesn't mean I turn against them either. That's very different,
Right.
I think. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's one thing in accepting that everyone has their own viewpoint, and another to feel like you have to force it down somebody's throat.
Yeah.
It's like I always say, to um, consider walking a mile in someone else's shoes, but don't demand that they walk a mile in yours. It's like,
and and don't feel like you have to stay in their shoes either.
exactly. Yeah. Like, if you can't make it a mile, don't bother. It's like, I tried. They don't fit. Sorry.
No, I didn't talk about Venus being at the end of Scorpio. She's on this new moon. She's very close to the end of this 9.5 months as morning star. She has been for sorry, she's been
Evening star. Yeah.
evening star.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for the last 9 months or so since last June 2020 actually, and she's so near the end of this journey. Oh no, that was the one before. It was the one in Aries. Sorry, I'm getting confused now. But anyway, she turns retrograde on December the 19th, conjunct Pluto. So seeing as I see Venus as Persephone,
Uh-huh.
Venus is going to turn retrograde conjunct her husband or lover,
Okay.
whatever you want to call it. And at the
Yeah.
moment, she's in Scorpio, that's
Ruled by
Pluto
Pluto.
ruled, of course. So
Yeah.
we have all these intricate dances going on, and I think we're really being our values are being changed and shifted. I don't know about you, but I just feel it. I don't know whether it's follow the astrology or whether it's because of what's happening in the world, But I used to buy into the whole, more, bigger house, more this, more that,
Mm,
new cars, all that. No, I just want less. I want simpler.
yeah,
It's not that I want to go and live in a cave particularly, but
right.
I just want a simpler life now. And I'm noticing
Mhm,
it with a lot of other people too.
mhm.
And
Yeah, I would agree that I've been feeling that too. It used to be, you know, that had to have, yeah, the newest or something, that I don't know. I was gaining some sort of recognition for myself from things, which is ridiculous. So,
yeah. But I think it's the old paradigm that we're coming out of. So,
yay. Uh-huh.
but I think a lot of people are realizing that they just don't want all that stuff anymore.
Hmm.
And we're
That's
so
it.
wasteful as a society, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, now, so we're talking a little bit about Pluto then. So
Mm.
do you, with Pluto and the United States chart, Pluto return, do you have, and this is all happening like on my Saturn return.
Ah,
So it's like my Saturn return is March next year too. So it's all at the same time.
well, it happens 3 times, of course, exactly next year.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, Pluto is the planet of transformation, death and transformation. I love the phrase that my teacher taught me. I think it came from Stephen Forrest originally, that Pluto takes away what you thought was your power and leaves you with what is truly your power.
Mm,
Now, I think it's undoubted. I mean, we can see we're in chaos already, and our
mhm,
institutions. Pluto's in Capricorn, which represents our institutions. The shadow and the corruption and the just the way our institutions just are not working for the
right.
people is
Yeah.
definitely being shown up here. Will it end up in the collapse of the US? I don't know. I've the way my chart is laid out, I've had Pluto transiting over nearly every one of my planets in my lifetime.
I'm Capricorn rising, Capricorn sun, and I have Mars and Mercury in Capricorn and my South Node. So I, so I can, yes,
Yeah.
I'm still alive. Yay.
Oh, exactly. And I found them very rewarding. Probably the toughest year was my Pluto square when Pluto transiting was square my natal Pluto. And that year, my dad did die. He was
Mhm.
diagnosed with brain cancer and died. But I also got married and had a baby, so I had birth and death. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Oh, wow.
Pluto, and I learned a lot from my dad dying quite young too. He died. I mean, it was, gosh, 20. It was 1997, so it's a while ago.
Yeah.
But I learned, a lot from my dad dying at the age of 61, a year after he retired. I thought I certainly learned that life's too short and you
Mhm.
shouldn't wait to do everything till you retire.
Yeah. That's
And
very, actually very much like my own father's. He passed when Saturn and Uranus were conjunct in 88. And they were trying to rush the paperwork through for him to retire because it would be better to, I don't know, something with my mom. I mean, I was in my early 20s, so I don't really remember like all the details of it. But yeah, so this year with Saturn and Uranus squaring all year, I've been thinking back to that because I didn't know anything about astrology then. But when I, look back at it, it's like,
yeah.
huh. Huh, I wonder
I
what
guess
that's gonna be like.
I guess what my point is that Pluto's not all bad, you know.
No.
So everybody, I think the US will be changed. I think,
Mhm.
and I think it's probably necessary, really, to be changed in some way, at least.
Yes.
What that will look like, I don't know. I just kind of hope it's, in a more fair society and a little less greedy and grasping. But to be quite honest,
Maybe a little more focus on the goddess, the feminine side, and see how things can improve with that.
yeah,
That, that would be beautiful.
it would. So that's my hope, and especially because after the Pluto return, and it's in that Ceres video, we have Venus, Pluto, and Ceres all meet at 0 Aquarius on December the 7th, 2024. I'm not thinking it'll suddenly be awake on that day, but that just seems like a real point of healing to me.
Yeah,
You know,
that'll definitely bring us into the age of Aquarius whenever that is. As we've been,
definitely will.
as we all keep saying, are we there yet? So,
Well, I think it's a process, the age of Aquarius. You know, I think it takes us quite a few hundred years to get there. I actually believe the process started with the discovery of Ceres. So
uh-huh. And you said that was in
Jan- January 1st, 1801.
1801. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. That's interesting.
Because since then we've had all these new discoveries, our consciousness has been expanding and changing,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've also been in the chaos caused by the Industrial Revolution. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
It's a fascinating time to be alive, I think. I mean, just how much individuals have changed in the past 2 years. Just, I mean, like, I know how much I have changed, but it seems the people that I talk to, the world has changed in the past 2 years. And so if it can change that much that quickly, I mean, when you look back 200 years then and you think, oh my goodness,
No, no. But the young people today do. You know, I have two daughters. I don't know if you have any kids, but yeah, mine are 23 and 21, and their generation, I just find them fascinating. They're just so different
yeah.
to us, you know.
Mhm. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I have four grandchildren, and I just don't even know what they're going to be as they get older. What that's going to look like. I keep thinking, Pluto and Capricorn generation. What are you going to do?
Well, I hope they emulate the wise side of Capricorn, because really Capricorn is the elder, the you know, that kind of wise leader kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
With
growing into that finally. So, growing into thinking that that could be me maybe someday. But I always just took it as cold and dry. So
like the feminine sign, so
yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, I think that gets forgotten with Capricorn. And
Mhm.
you know, at a deeper kind of more esoteric level, you could say that Pluto's journey through Capricorn is um to eliminate that view of Capricorn as having to be cold and dry.
I like it. I like it.
Pluto is elimination, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on my show
Oh,
today.
thanks for having me.
And
Yeah.
I'm glad you have 1,000 subscribers now. And I hopefully you'll have more. You'll be now that changes the dynamic and you'll start getting um, presented more and more people will follow you. But all of you that follow me, please go over
Yes, please.
and subscribe to Cosmic Owl Astrology with
Yes, please.
Louise Addington.
And I'm
And you
gonna.
can watch and you can listen to her podcast too, which is Weirdly Cosmic, the Weirdly Cosmic podcast.
It is. And
So
your YouTube is Angel Star.
Angel Star Karma. Yes.
So
I'm going to rebrand at some point, but that there's a story to that name too. So
so if you're watching on my YouTube, you could go and subscribe to Angel Star Karma.
that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure doing these things. I do like chatting
Yeah. So
to other
maybe I can have
stars.
you on again soon or another time with maybe coming close to your Venus, after your Venus retrograde
Yeah.
class or something. That would be fun. So,
I'll send you the
all
link
right.
to the Venus retrograde.
Yes. And I'll post it on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can have all your links there.
All right.
All right.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.